If words can hurt, imagine being able to hear thoughts. It might have its advantages, but for Motomiya Yuri, reading her best friend Hanaka's thoughts leads her to the decision to break the heart of Teo, the love of her life. But if she could also give up this gift to be with the person she loves, even if it means losing communication with her father, would it be worth it? Now, let's move on to the second part of the summary of I Love You. Despite the bad news Teo has gotten from the love of his life the night before, he still has to come to work the next day and still work with her. He gets to work and he is embraced with the good news that he has been employed as a permanent staff of the company. While Hanaka shares the news with him and gives him his new company identity card, they are all excited on his behalf and they welcome him to be part of them, but he doesn't look as excited as they are for him. They wonder what could have gone wrong and if he didn't want that employment, but he lies to them that he is as excited as they want. He recalls how Yuri had refused his offer to be with her the night before, and he can't even consider what could have made her make that choice as it seemed like they were made for each other. The company continues that day and Hanaka informs them of a conference that was organized by some of their investors at a place that is a holiday vacation. He asks all the staff to prepare to attend and tells Teo that there will be a lot of foreign investors there, and he will need Teo to interpret for them, so Teo should also join them. After the meeting, Mahiro meets Yuri and they talk about Teo. She is shocked to hear Yuri reject Teo, and she wonders how that could have happened since Yuri had always expressed that she liked Teo and would want to be with him. Yuri recalls what had caused her confusion. Finding out that Hanaka was in love with her was a reality she didn't want to accept, and she didn't want to hurt her friend to be with someone else. Without telling Mahiro this, she tells her that she is trying to figure out her feelings and know what to do. She goes to the hospital to meet her father and tells him about her trip the next day, telling him she could even bring a gift for him when she is coming back, but he tells her that she doesn't have to do that, and she just has to ensure she rests well. The following day, she meets Hanaka at the airport for their trip and she is shocked to find out that both Ihata and Nishina had gotten into some emergency, and they won't be joining them on the trip. As a result, she would be going with Teo and Hanaka. They arrive at their destination and Teo wants to take a photo. She walks away from Teo, but Hanaka, who is taking the photo, asks her to go closer to him so they can take a group photo, and she reluctantly does. They have their meal and go to the conference room for the program, and she watches as Teo interprets to their clients, and she figures she likes this boy. After the conference, Teo goes to Hanaka to give him good advice, which is the fact that women do not like men who come off as too strong, and it seems he is too strong, and that's why Yuri can't express her love for him. Hanaka asks to confirm if Yuri and Teo are a done deal. He says he can't believe that because Yuri likes Teo and there is nothing between himself and Yuri. As the boys argue, Yuri comes by and they leave. At the laboratory, the professor finds out that the lady Teo loves has rejected him. He knows Teo isn't strong enough to take that loss, so he begs Onoda to call the lady and find out what is wrong. With the mistake Onoda has made, he calls Mahiro again and asks to meet her. He asks her why she has rejected someone she loves and she tells him he had mistaken her, and she doesn't love Teo, instead, it is Yuri who liked him. He wonders why Mahiro had given him the chocolate then, so Mahiro holds his legs and tells him to think about the reason. Onoda returns to the laboratory and reports this to the professor, who feels glad that Yuri at least rejected Teo. At the hotel, Yuri finds a book about the water that she had fallen into. They go for dinner where the attendant talks about how she thinks Hanaka and Yuri will make a good couple, and Teo also asks them how they had become business partners and also said they would make a good couple. Hanaka gets an allergy and Yuri takes him to the bed. As he sleeps, she hears him say he just wants Yuri and Teo to be happy. As a result, she goes outside to meet Teo and they look at the sky together. They see a shooting sky and he asks her if she has a wish. She says no, and when she asks him the same question, he says yes and asks if she will fulfill his wish. He tells her that he knows she has rejected him, so there is no point. He stands to return to the house, but she drags him back. He removes her hand, telling her to stop leading him on. The following day, they go to their program and he meets a lady, Minha Na, a Korean, who gives him her card but leaves. When they are about to leave the program, Yuri finds out from Hanaka that Teo has gone to the sea. They proceed to leave the city, but she keeps thinking about Teo and wants to go to meet him. At the airport, she tries to express this to Hanaka, who tells her that he knows even before she tells him. He says they should play a rock-paper-scissors game, and if he wins, she must go. She reminds him that he isn't even good at the rock-paper-scissors game, and he confirms that is why he wants the game, so if he wins regardless, she must go. He wins and she goes while he looks at her in tears, admitting that he knows her so much that he knows when she is in love. She goes to the sea, confesses her love to Teo, and they hug. On the other hand, the professor keeps finding a solution to her delusions. They have fun throughout the day and they return home the following day. In the morning, he comes to her house with food so she can eat. She feels shy as she hasn't dressed up all. As new lovers, they try to play and she eats. He tells her there is a place in his house that if she screams her wishes, it will come to pass, and he invites her to join him there. She accepts his invitation and they go to his house together. The following day, they resume work, and as Yuri is carrying some of her bags, she hits one of the staff and falls. The O quickly goes to her rescue and helps her out, He goes for lunch with the other staff of the company and asks them if they have any idea of something exciting that a person can do with their lover. They advise him to go to the river, but he says he has done that before, so they advise that he takes her for hot spring. He decides to go with that idea, so right after work he goes to meet Yuri at home and tells her they will be going to the hot spring that evening. On the other hand, the professor finds an antidote to her delusions, and he calls a foreign company asking if they have what he could use. The couple arrives at the hot spring and they have fun. They change their dresses, play in the hot water, and take lovely pictures to keep memories of that day. On the other hand, Mahiro thinks about Onoda, and she considers calling him and letting him know her feelings. She sends him a text asking if they could see, but he replies to the text and says no. She asks him why, and he says it is because it is hot tide. While she wonders why she fell in love with someone who is as insensitive as the doctor, she receives a call from him, and she wonders if he had changed his mind. He tells her that she should come to the river with him. She assumes that she is going on a date, so she buys a new shoe and goes to meet him, only for him to take her to the muddy part of the river, asking her to pick shells for him. As she does that, he asks her why she is confusing him and tells her that there is nothing she does that he finds easy to understand. She insists that is her line and not his line. She goes nearer to him asking him what she could do so he would notice her, but he still doesn't understand what she means. She holds his hands asking for permission to kiss him, and she kisses him. After the kiss, he tells her that within 5 days their lips will regain their composure, and it will be as if the kiss never happened. She asks him why he is behaving as if he doesn't understand what she wants, and he insists he doesn't understand her, so she reveals that she likes him. On the other hand, Nishina comes to the same hot spring that Teo is with Yuri. Yuri quickly hides so her staff won't see her. They leave the spring, and on their way, Yuri receives a call from Mahiro that Onoda had rejected her. Yuri quickly goes home and Mahiro visits. In tears, Mahiro tells her that Onoda replied to her after her declaration that he didn't see her in that manner. She asks Yuri if she has ever been rejected, and Yuri says yes. She wonders why the guy rejected her, and for the first time, Yuri reveals to Mahiro that she could read people's minds. As expected, Mahiro doesn't believe her either. She thinks in her heart that Yuri doesn't want to tell her the truth, but Yuri replies that she is telling the truth. She says other things in her mind and Yuri replies again, so Mahiro gets scared and asks to leave. That evening, the professor confirms to Teo that he is in love with Yuri. He happily asks Teo if he is heartbroken, but Teo reveals they are now dating. He tells Teo that there are a lot of things he doesn't know about Yuri and begs Teo to reconsider the relationship, saying he sees Teo as his son. Feeling bad, Teo leaves the laboratory. At work, Mahiro remains very concerned about what she has found out, and Yuri regrets telling her in the first place. While thinking, Mahiro asks a colleague what they will do if they find out she is from the future, and if it won't be scary. After work finishes, Teo meets Yuri and asks that they go for dinner. However, on their way, he notices that she feels so sad and he asks her what had happened. She tells him that she has an issue with Mahiro, and he advises her that she is difficult to understand and that Mahiro will feel better if she tells Mahiro how she feels. He cancels their dinner and asks her to meet Mahiro. As he had advised, she runs to meet Mahiro at work and they reconcile. She goes to meet her father and tells him about the man she has found and the man she loves. He is so happy for her. She meets Taro again and they plan their dinner. As she looks at him, she thinks about how lucky she is and she goes to kiss him. They go home for dinner, and as he goes to get the foodstuff, she checks his house and finds a book written by Hana. It is about a girl who can hear the hearts of others. She opens it, and Hana's card falls out of it. That is the same book that the professor had ordered, and it arrives almost at the same time. She opens the book, and she reads about the girl who can read the hearts of others. She had fallen into the water, and the animals had spoken their hearts to her, which was why she could read hearts. She found a man she loved and they sealed their fate, but she kept her secret from that man. As a result, they both suffer great misfortune, and it ends miserably for them. As the book continues, it says that it is the fate of the girl who can read the hearts of another. Just as she finishes the book, Teo walks back home happily and keeps saying he is happy with his life now. Will he remain happy? Leo suddenly returns home and Yuri can't continue reading the book. As Teo tries to make dinner for her, she considers asking him to read the book for her, but she doesn't want to do that, so she keeps shut and they have their meal in peace. At home, she tries to browse the book so she can get her copy, but she sees that there is no copy of the book left. The following day, she uses sign language to communicate with Mahiro, who goes to meet her at the coffee room. She tells Mahiro what she has read in the book. She tells Mahiro that the book perfectly conveyed what she had with Teo, and it said that several evil things will happen if she doesn't find something to do. She tells her about a part of the book that talks about a plague, and they try to assume that it is just a comic book, and she doesn't have to think deeply about it, and she can just take it as a normal comic book. Suddenly, they hear a noise from one of their staff, Kame. Kame has fallen and his back can no longer be straight. When they ask him what had happened, he reveals that it was a result of the thunder that had struck just now. Mahiro recalls that the book talked about thunder. She quickly drags Yuri to the side to tell Yuri that the book may not be an ordinary comic book because it seems the things the book has said are coming into reality. She tells Yuri to be at rest because she will find something to do about it. That evening, she convinces Yuri to invite her to Teo's house so they can find a way to read the book completely. They pick a sign language as she makes her way to force Teo outside the house so that Yuri can read the book. However, she is shocked to see Onoda outside. The O tells them he had invited Onoda so they can eat together. As they eat, Onoda writes all the things he notices about Mahiro, which makes her wonder why he is doing that. He reveals to her that he also thinks if he gets to know her better, he will find out if he is free to take another chance at love, and he will love her better. To give them time, Teo quickly drags Yuri out of the house. She sits in the swing and they talk. She tells him that seeing the way Onoda wants to know about Mahiro makes her feel like Teo doesn't know much about her. The O asks her what he doesn't know, and he decides to ask her about her best food. She reveals her best food and talks about how she had gotten to like coffee and chocolate because of her father. He sees that she feels bad having that conversation, so he stops her, and also tells her there are things she doesn't know about him, but he says that the things she doesn't know and the things he doesn't know barely matters because no matter the part of her he knows, he likes every part of her. They return to meet Mahiro and Onoda bids them goodbye, telling Mahiro he will text her with more questions. The friends talk again and Mahiro reveals to Yuri that she was able to check some pages in the book, and it says that if the lady can find a way to make the power disappear, she will be able to remain with her lover. She sends the pages she had snapped to Yuri, who goes home and reads them. She considers if she should let go of that power, and she thinks about the happiness she shares with Teo. However, she knows if the power goes, she won't be able to speak with her father again. Upon returning to work, Mahiro comes to ask her if she has made a decision, but she says it is not an easy decision, and she doesn't think she wants to make such a decision because of just a comic book. Suddenly, Kame comes with another piece of bad news. Their investor company has suddenly become bankrupt. That is the company that wants to invest billions in their company, and the bankruptcy of that company will affect them. Hanaka quickly gets into action of getting another investor, and Yuri gets another call that her father's condition has gone worse. She rushes to the hospital, and when her father stabilizes, she calls Hanaka, who asks her to remain there, and he will sort things out. She tells her father about the issues, and her father tells her that if she stares at someone for 3 seconds, the power can go. He asks her to try it with him, but she doesn't want to try it, so he tells her that it doesn't matter as he would also hear her voice even if she can't hear him. He forces her to cry, and as she opens her eyes, she sees him sitting. He tells her about how happy he had felt when she was born and how happy he had always been with her, telling her she will always make him happy regardless. When she eventually returns to reality, she cries thinking she has lost connection with her father, but she is shocked to hear his voice again. She happily leaves the hospital, and she meets Teo at home. He brings food for her, and she tells him about how she had gone to the river as a child and had fallen, so her father jumped in to save her, but he became bedridden, and since then, she has been taking care of him. He tells her he is proud that she is a good daughter, and that he will support her. Suddenly, he receives a call from the professor. He goes to meet him, and the professor tells him how he had met Yuri and her father at the sea and how he had found out her father was bedridden and he had gone there to see them. He begs Teo to please break up, but again, Teo refuses. At work, Hanaka suddenly receives a call from Ha-na, who reveals she had watched the news about their investor, and she offers to help, so she says she is coming to Japan soon. After work, Yuri goes to see her father, and she sees the professor coming out of his hospital room. She asks her father who he was, and her father narrates that the professor had visited him to confirm if it is true she could read people's hearts, and he told the professor yes by blinking his eyes. The professor told him that there was someone else who knew about the power, and the person was Teo. It turns out that Teo has found out through that book. He is also reading that book that evening. When the professor was talking to him the day before, he revealed that he knew the secret, but he had decided that he loves her and would remain with her. The professor asks him if he knows the end of the book, and he says yes, but he is Yun Teo, and he will stay with her. As the professor continues his story, he tells Yuri's father that he had felt the need to tell Teo the truth when he found out, but he felt it would hurt Teo. However, before he spoke, he found out that Teo knew about the situation by himself, and he would make sure he stays with her. He knows the end of the story and knows it won't be good for them, so he doesn't want them together. He tells Yuri's father all of these and begs him to find a way to separate the children. When Yuri hears this, she wonders why Teo may be keeping it a secret from her. She asks her father what he thinks, and her father tells her that for him to know and keep it a secret, he must be a special person too. Yuri goes to work the next day and tells Mahiro about it. Mahiro feels the only way they can find out what Teo is thinking is for her to interview Teo and send to her his thoughts in Korean so she can use a translator to find out the meaning in Japanese. She accepts the idea and they start the meeting. All the words she is writing and calling for Mahiro end up not being meaningful, and the meeting doesn't get to a good end. On the other hand, Hana comes to Japan as promised, and she meets Hanaka. He signs the contract with her and offers to take her to Yuri. However, by the time Hana gets closer to Yuri's office, she also hears Yuri's heart, and she leaves. Since the first method doesn't work, Mahiro advises that Yuri should have a sleepover with Teo so she can find out the truth. She calls Teo that evening and they go to her house. On the other hand, Onoda takes Mihiro to his office and tries to tell her more about himself too, so they decide they will get to know each other better while being in love. At the sleepover, Yuri tries to ask Teo about personal questions, including what will Teo do if he sees he can read hearts. When Teo realizes what is happening, he says he needs to leave and he goes home. The following day, Hanaka takes the contract with Hana to Yuri. She sees Hana's name, and she wonders if Teo and Hana know themselves, and that makes her suspicious of him. After work, Hana finds Teo, and she takes him to a place so they can talk. She asks him why he is still with Yuri and in love with her despite knowing the end of their story. He isn't interested in having that kind of conversation with her. He recalls that after he had collected Hana's card at the meeting, he saw the sign of the girl holding her ears, and he remembered the story that his mother used to read to him as a child about a girl that hears hearts. He went home and tries to find the story in his box, and he found the story. He tells Hana that no matter what she thinks, he will remain with Yuri and be by her side. The fact that Yuri feels Hana and Teo are acquaintances makes her suspect him. She tells her father about it, but he asks her to trust the boy. She returns home with those thoughts. At work, Hana sees that Teo has left and goes inside the office. She meets Hanaka, who asks if she has come for the contract, but she says no. She says she has come to give Yuri something. She brings out the picture book, and she hears Hanaka's heart as he wonders why she is giving Yuri a picture book. She says that the book is her story, the story of herself and her lover, and how they had ended, and she doesn't want Yuri to end the same way. Hanaka goes to Yuri's house and talks in his heart so he can confirm that Yuri hears people's hearts. When he confirms it, he tells her what Hana said and gives her a copy of the book. As Yuri reads the book, she realizes that eventually, Hana's lover became a shooting star in the night sky, and no matter how he cried for her, she could no longer hear him, which means that he died. Hanaka admits that when he first heard it, he didn't believe it either, but he asked Nishina to investigate Hana in her high school, and he found out she had a lover who is now dead. When Yuri confirms her fate, she goes to meet Teo, and she tells him that she was the one that met him, fell in love with him, but now, she wants to break up with him. He asks her why, and in his heart, he speaks in Korean. She holds her ears and he speaks in Japanese to her, asking her if she has found out what he knows, and she says yes. He holds her hands, but she removes them and she leaves the house in tears. She checks the meaning of the Korean word he has said, and she is heartbroken over again. She walks on the way absent-minded, and she doesn't know that there is a bike coming behind her. Teo, who has run after her, sees the bike and he pushes her, and they fall together. He drags her up, telling her that he is fine and offering to walk her home. As they get to her house, he thinks of Korea again, and she appreciates him, and goes inside. They both spend the night absent kindly at home, with thoughts. When she gets back to work the next day, she gets a resignation letter from Teo. She continues work while Hanaka and Mihiro look at her concern. Mihiro realizes that it isn't a matter of just Teo, and as long as Yuri has that power, she can't fall in love with anyone. They meet her after work and ask her what she wants to do. They recall that there was something in the book about looking in the heart of someone for 33 seconds. She tells them that she has tried it, and it didn't work, and they wonder if that is the only wrong thing in the book. Meanwhile, Teo meets his professor and announces his breakup. When the professor asks if he will return to the lab, he says that he wants to return to Korea. After work, Hanaka calls Hana to ask about the 33-second look, and Hana tells him that it was after her lover died that she visited the river again, and she found it out, but she couldn't bring herself to try it, so she gave it up, and she just hopes it would work for someone. Mihiro quickly goes to the professor's lab and asks if they know about the Ainu legend that Hana said she had found. The professor reveals that he had seen something about the legend, and he brings out the book, but there were missing pages. Onoda reveals that the professor had given him some parts of the book to decode, but since he couldn't, he kept it. It brings out the missing part, and they find out the stair has to be under the stars. She calls Yuri and immediately informs her while she remains with Onoda as he tries to decode the other part of the book. As she talks with him, he reveals that he is attracted to her, and she is the only one he is attracted to, but she says she wants more than that, so he reveals that he likes her, and he hugs her. Upon returning to Korea, Teo goes to the bridge and watches. He suddenly sees Hanaka. He is shocked that Hanaka has come to Korea, and Hanaka reminds him that he has a contract with Hana. He brings out the resignation letter that Teo has written and says he can't accept it because there is no signature on it. He also asks why Teo had left, and Teo says it is because if he can't be with Yuri, there is no reason for him to be in Japan. Hanaka encourages him and gives him tickets to Japan, telling him he is still their staff and he is sent on official duty to return to the company. Then Hanaka leaves. Before Teo decides Yuri comes with her box, she runs to hug him, telling him that it is only his face that she wants to see and his voice that she wants to hear. He hugs her in return. She asks if he will listen to what she has to tell him, and he says yes. She tells him about the secret, and she asks to go to his house. At home, they both sit by the rooftop and look at the sky. She tells him how she had wanted to hear his heart since the first time they met, and he tells her he will say the things he thought about when he first met her. They talk, laugh, and kiss as the night ends. The following day, Hanaka meets Hana and reveals to her that her boyfriend had heart disease and it was the disease that killed him and not the power, so she should stop blaming herself and her power, and she should fall in love with someone else. Our lovely couple continue with their sweet love life as they walk around the streets of Korea together. They also take Yuri's dad for a hot spring, and he enjoys being with the kids. The professor and Yuri's dad also become friends as the professor pays him several visits to the hospital. As the movie ends, Teo takes Yuri to his hometown and shows her the city he was born in. He holds her ears and she holds his ear as she tells him in Korea that she loves him so much.